we welcome in Herm Edwards of ESPN. Herm, we didn't quite win the Super Bowl this week, but it kind of feels like that around here. This city, after the city council approved the Stadium of the Future renovation 14-1. So we are celebrating that the Jaguars will be here for a very long time.
And that is good. This is a team I can remember when the franchise first came about. And I was in Tampa, actually. I was with the Buccaneers, and we used to come up all the time and scrimmage against Jacksonville during camp. So it's a team that has a great fan base. And when you think about last year, there were high expectations for these guys and got off to a pretty good start. And then with the injury of Trevor, obviously didn't finish very well. And when you think about this team, too, with this renovation of the stadium, they don't play good at home. I mean, they were 3-5 at home last year. And that has to obviously improve because you want to have a home field advantage, especially at that place. And, the turnovers got to them. They had 30 turnovers last year, I think fifth most in the National Football League. So there's some things that they can clean up. I think the division is really going to be a fun division with a lot of young quarterbacks. C.J. Stroud, obviously, Richardson with the Colts, Levis, obviously, with the Tennessee Titans. So when you look at this division, a lot of young quarterbacks, and that's kind of going to be fun to watch in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I want to obviously talk a little bit more about the Jags in the AFC South, but I want to zoom out for a second because one of the conversations we've had a lot this offseason is about raising the expectations for a long time here in Jacksonville. It was more so hoping you get to 5-6 wins, and now that has flipped over to playoff expectations. So my question for you, what have you seen in your time coaching and your time as an analyst that these teams do that have found consistent success? Ones like Pittsburgh, for example. What are they doing different to make it just the longevity happen?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the players in the organization, right? Because at the end, the players play. And I say that as a former player. And I think when you go on these runs of getting into the playoffs, winning the division, if you look at the teams, the catalyst generally stays together. That's unique in the National Football League anymore because of free agency and the salary caps. It's hard to keep teams, but you got to keep your core players. I mean, one of those teams, obviously, when you think about it in the NFC, is San Francisco 49ers, what they've been able to do, right? That has a lot to do with it. And here's the big one, the quarterback. Who's the quarterback? At the end of the day, the quarterback has a lot to do with it as well.
Certainly does, and that's why Trevor Lawrence just got the extension that he did, 5 years, $275 million. Herm Edwards with us of ESPN. All right, Herm, when you talk about the 49ers, you talk about other teams, to Taylor's point about the sustained success. The Jaguars went and got Eric Armstead. They went and got Gabe Davis and Mitch Morse from the Bills. They're trying to bring in guys that have experienced that winning culture year in and year out. Can 3 guys make that much of a difference?
It helps you when you have a veteran core leadership like that. These guys are used to winning. They will have a voice in the locker room. And when you think about Doug Peterson is a good football coach. He understands that, this team is right on the brink of really being one of those teams. What can I do to enhance it? And when you bring in players like you just mentioned, that always helps. And here again, understand this. Some of these players left, organizations that were winning, and they decided to come to Jacksonville. So, that says a lot as well.
Yeah, definitely a conversation we've had quite a bit, and kind of rolling off of that, one of the additions they made this offseason that seems to have attracted somebody like Eric Armstead is the addition of defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen. What are your thoughts on him and just how defensively that scheme can benefit the Jaguars as a whole, but especially maybe guys like a Travon Walker?
Well, obviously they're going to go to a 3-4. This is where Allen and Walker, will play at the end spot. And this will give you the ability, to move them around, but also to bring pressure. And I think it fits the style that coach wants to play, but the players have to fit it too. And I think when he looks at his team as he got here, as he inherited this defense, he's going, look, we got to play better on defense. We have to get our star players involved in this more. And it's a passing league. There's no doubt about it. And you got to knock the quarterback down. You have to get after the quarterback. The team had 40 sacks. Look, it had 16 interceptions. That's pretty good. Pass defense was 26th in the league. Run defense was good. But the pass defense, obviously, a lot of that has to do with the pressure you put on the quarterback. So now, the two men you just mentioned, they're going to have the ability to get after the quarterback.
Now, Herm, when we're talking about the NFL draft and the years when you were a head coach, what was the most difficult part for you when it came to analyzing some of these guys and trying to identify which ones were going to be able to take that step in the NFL? Because we've seen it both ways here. We've seen guys surprise us. We've seen it the opposite way, unfortunately. But what was the most difficult part during that process for you?
Well, it wasn't real difficult in this sense when you lived it and you played, right? So it wasn't as difficult as now. Now, look, obviously going from college to the NFL is a big step. And my thing was always this. And look, we all make mistakes drafting guys. We get that. The thing that I found that meant the most to me when I drafted a guy, the conversations you had before the draft, right? And I wanted to walk away from a guy knowing this. Did he like football because what football provides him, or did he love football? There's a difference. Mm-hmm. I wanted the guys that love football, that love the grind of it all, the practicing. Look, you practice more than you play when it comes to football. I mean, all the hours you have to put in. Does he like that? Those are the guys that love football. There's other guys that, they like what football provides them. And they're not saying they're not good players. But I wanted a guy that loved football. And when I knew that, I knew we were getting a good player.
How quickly could you tell, as far as the draft process is concerned, about whether they love it?
Well, you got to go back to the history of the guy, too, right? How was he in high school? How was he in college? These are all the questions you're asking. There's a lot. And then sometimes you ask all those questions and it still doesn't turn out right. Mm-hmm. But the thing you know about the NFL, that you get weeded out real fast. It's a hard league. It is a hard league. And there's a lot of talented players that have talent. And I used to tell them this all the time. Sometimes talent can be a curse if you don't use it correctly.
That is definitely true. And I think that when we look at the NFL and the teams that's successful that have found the continued success, you spoke on it a little bit, but when you have, that balance between the free agency and the draft and being able to have these veterans that come in with experience, but then also being able to obviously draft and develop some of these guys. In your opinion, from this offseason between free agency and the draft, a ton of quarterbacks, a ton of offensive players going early, which team to you or which player do you think will make the most impact with some of these moves they made this offseason?
Well, it's hard to say one guy, one team. I will say this. It's interesting. I think when you make moves on the offseason, the key for me is always to look at a player and say, does he fit? Does he fit where he's going? And that's up to the coach. A lot of players fail because you're asking them to do things they're incapable of doing. In other words, does the system fit the player's skill set? And sometimes coaches, they have their system means so much to them, they won't allow the player any ability to use his skill set because they won't adjust. And so that's the big key for me when you watch teams on the offseason. Everybody's happy on the offseason. Everybody's winning on the offseason. After the draft and free agency, everybody's happy. Fans are happy. Oh, we're all happy. Yeah, everybody's in the playoffs in the offseason, right? And so it comes back when you look at certain teams. Now, there's certain teams you look at and you go, are they going to get in the playoffs, right? And you can look at the NFC and the AFC, and we kind of know who they are, right? Are the Kansas City Chiefs playoff team? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Are the Buffalo Bills a playoff team? Yeah. I mean, you can go down the line in certain divisions and go, yeah. So now you look at, who's going to take their spot? All of a sudden, in the AFC South, can two teams come out of there as playoff teams? Be interesting.
Yeah, that's a question we've been asking.
Yeah. I mean, like all of a sudden, Harbaugh goes to the Chargers. Are the Chargers a little bit better? I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to say yeah. Antonio Pierce last year went to the Raiders. He became the head coach, right? Look, they were 4-2 in their division. 4-2. It's interesting. I mean, and that's what makes the league so unique. We always used to say, and this is when what's the difference between 10-7 and 7-10? Probably 20 plays.
Mm-hmm. And a little bit of luck.
Right. It will always have something to do with luck or the health and all that. So the ball bounces your way, right? Mm-hmm. But that's the difference. And that's why you see teams flip, and that's what makes the league so unique. And that's what excites the fan bases all the time, because the fact that you look at your season and you go, man, we could have gotten the playoffs. Yeah. But, there's a play here or there you got to make, and that's what makes it so exciting.
You got that right. Well, Herm, we really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you.